14 weeks so many
Uh-huh.
times. It's so, this is, I'm so happy that you're updating us. Thank you for
Well,
that.
even like the study that was done where they said puppies after 14 weeks, they took puppies and didn't expose them to people. And if they weren't exposed before 14 weeks, they couldn't really bond with people. Well, the 14 weeks was arbitrary. They just picked that number. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, the whole study, if you go back and look at and of course, the study, like he says, if you read the whole thing, they do go in and say, hey, this is a weakness, this is a weakness, this is a weakness. But he said people didn't do that. They just took this take home lesson from the middle. And he kind of went through all of them. And like I say, I kind of get sidetracked in all these wonderful details. But yeah, I'll post a bunch of that stuff.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
that's true. Like what Elise said, that occurred to me, but also because we have so much experience with the very fearful animals,
Uh-huh.
especially the fearful cats, I'm so skeptical. I'm skeptical about that old information that we had, that's like the critical socialization period is everything, because we have animals that we know never were exposed to people.
Mm.
Sometimes we don't know that much about where they came from, but sometimes we really know that this animal lived in a closet for whatever years since they were,
Right.
X weeks old. So we can be pretty sure that they weren't handled by people, but we are still successful.
Well,
So,
and one of the studies, and this may have been the one that I think isn't published yet, but where he looked at, or maybe this is a different one, but they looked at two age groups. They basically looked at this like 3 to 13 window or up to 16 weeks, and they looked at 5 months to a year and negative experiences, how they impacted their overall fearfulness or their overall frustration, and at which was the most important or which it didn't make any difference. That and that table I can actually I'll put up in just Discord. That's actually really interesting because some of it doesn't make as much difference on some of those things as you would think.
hmm. Yeah, that's really interesting. The one question that I was thinking about for you this whole time is like, since you do work with puppies at the shelter, especially the under socialized puppies, Pat,
Mhm.
what are like concrete recommendations you would make for us, like specific things that we can do that we can improve the experience of the puppies in our program?
And obviously, and you mentioned this, getting them as soon as we can is really important. Um, a lot of what we did, with the six puppies, I mean, we didn't do as much. We introduced them to people, maybe not as many as I'd like, and we didn't do we did a little harness training and stuff. But what we did? 3 or 4 of us were in that room twice a week, just hanging out with them, with toys, letting them climb all over us. And I think that really was huge for those puppies. Just seeing, even if it was a limited number of different people, but touching them, and their foster did a decent job at that too, because you could handle their feet and stuff. Where some of the puppies I can't do that with. But yeah, I think and making sure with our fosters, and I know we give them information, but maybe emphasizing simple things like just touch or leaving them toys to crawl around on and things like that.
Hmm. Yeah, giving our fosters more information.
Yeah, and also having, we're lucky we have a couple puppy friendly dogs now, but getting the more interaction with other dogs is really really big. Um, and the way you've got Puppy K in the backyard actually works really nicely because they're around other puppies more and more room to interact. Because we
Yeah,
get a
that
lot of
actually, there's some like parallels between the puppy information, the information about puppies, so from this conference, and also the information about kittens. So it's like
yeah.
really similar. So does anybody else have any questions for Pat before we move on?
Hey, I typed mine in the chat. I was curious that you mentioned that there were some things that surprised you, like experiences that either made more of a difference or less of a difference than you kind of would have thought. I was just curious what you meant there, if you had a couple in mind that you were thinking of. That's fine if you don't have any. I
Yeah.
was curious if there was.
I'd have to think about that.
That's fine. Yeah, no worries.
I think my biggest surprise this year so far are those dumpster puppies.
Oh yeah.
That last bunch had to have been the best adjusted puppies I've ever been around. I mean, they were wonderful puppies. And look at all this, what they had going for them from whatever start they came out of. So
Yep. I'm not surprised because they lived at the shelter, and there are some of them, you know, they're surrounded by people who think about you know, being animal centered.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm gonna, in a similar topic, I wanted to put our topics together because, let's see, I have to like maybe I can put the spotlight. Oh, look, we're both here. You can take off your spotlight.
Take me away. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So I'm going to talk about, so I did a talk at a similar topic, I guess, at the PPG Puppies and Kittens conference. So this was the Daniel Mills the conference was centered around Daniel Mills, his presentations that Pat talked about. And I did a presentation. Hopefully you can see this. Are you guys able to see my thing? Or does it look like thinking? Oh, did you see anything?
No, just says you've started screen sharing.
Oh, how about now?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yes.
Cool. Awesome. Okay, let me see if I can figure out how to. It's a little bit, there's a bit of a pause whenever I press things, so I apologize. I'm not really sure what that's about. Okay. So basically, my talk was about research concerning kitten fostering and the experience of kitten fosters, and then also the practices of kitten fosters, like whatever recommended, what they did, and how it compared to best practice recommendations for fostering kittens. And I'm showing this screen to you of my presentation because it was this researcher, Courtney Graham, that I was talking about most of her work, because she really does a whole lot of kitten foster centered papers, which is so interesting. It's such a, it's a niche, but that's what her focus is. And so cool, but she went to my talk, and I was the most nervous I've ever been giving a talk because Courtney Graham was at a talk that I was doing about her research. And there was some other stuff, but this was for me the big paper because it was, oh, I have to go get the mail. Give me just a second. I can talk to you. This talk was so huge because there was, he basically did a survey with from fosters from all over the world, mostly Canada and the US. And she asked them questions about, you know, what their experience was like in terms of, you know, what kind of information they were provided by shelters, and then what they did in terms of socializing their kittens, like what kind of, you know, what training they did or when they did exposures, and that really uncovered a lot of information about what kitten fosters do. And I should preface all of this by saying this topic was very important to me because when I was asked to do a talk about kittens, I was kind of like dragged kicking and screaming into the topic because I don't, like normal kittens aren't really they're not really my topic. I usually get them after, you know, after they have not been socialized or something happens and they're, you know, a special behavior case, you know. So I'm not seeing normal kittens. And this was about you know, kittens that just, you know, day to day kitten season kittens, you just, you know, flooded with kittens and trying to keep them alive. And it's not about after they've developed some behavior issues. So I didn't really want to do the talk, but that was the theme of the conference. And Nikki wasn't going to take no for an answer. So I was like, going to go to do the talk. And I was thinking, okay, what do I think about when it comes to kittens? And I think about kitten season. I think about that kittens are the most at-risk population in animal shelters. They're most at risk of being euthanized because they are at risk of disease in shelters, and they're just so, it just takes so much work to keep kittens alive. And there are few people that are really, it takes like a specialized knowledge to keep kittens alive. So many shelters just out of hand, you know, euthanize them. And I would tell you the number. I know it's the largest population. I'm going to have to dig a little bit. It's probably in my notes for the actual presentation, but if we can come up with a more foster-centered way of keeping kittens alive and happy, then it can benefit a huge population of shelter animals. So I broke down my presentation into what I learned from Courtney Graham's research about the foster experience and my recommendations about the foster experience, and of course training related recommendations for kittens. So what Courtney Graham found in her research was that guess I want you to guess, like, what percent of kitten fosters get any behavior kind of guidance at all? 0. Yeah, Jen says 0. Anybody else have any guess?
Less than 5%.
Oh my gosh, that's pretty grim, you guys. You guys are not very optimistic. So it's actually more than that. I think that they get just basic, like that you should handle the cat, that they should meet different people. I don't know. What do we tell people who foster kittens? Anybody who's fostered kittens? Oh, Anna. Anna, what do we tell people?
I don't think I got anything in terms of like behavior and socialization. It's been all the training I got was more on how to bottle feed them and all that. And I think working with you, I've been learning about the importance of like the smell exercise we did, the early training on like the play, the social. For me, I think what it's been very interesting for socializing, especially solo kittens, is to introduce them to my other cats and how to like gradually go through that process. But I think that's something that we've been learning as we go.
Right. Yeah, I think that so the answer is, it's actually, I guess, good compared to the expectations and experiences of our folks here. It's 50%, according to Courtney Graham's research, which I still think is very poor compared to puppy fosters. Like, puppy fosters typically get a lot more support in that arena. And if you think about it, like in one of my slides, I showed like how many kittens who had been in foster eventually got returned for behavior issues. And it's like so many of them. So it makes sense that we should provide a better foster experience. So it's 50%, she says, 50% of kitten fosters get any information at all about behavior for kittens. And she also found that the fosters really felt like they valued the support of of shelter staff. So either they didn't think that they got enough, or when they got any support from shelter staff, they really, really valued it. Some other things that that they found in this University of Guelph study was that that generally fosters use like animal-centered, gentle handling, recommended practices, which are not compulsive. But there was still a significant group of kitten fosters that used aversive training, which we know it's not recommended for puppies or kittens. And so I thought that was very interesting. She also found that fosters were generally not able to read more subtle signs of fear in kittens, which I thought was really interesting. So kittens generally have similar body language to adult cats. By the time they're about 3 weeks old, everything they do, they're like little adults. And so I thought it was very interesting that kind of beyond things like hissing and growling and spitting and things like that, that the more subtle signs of discomfort in cats went unnoticed by fosters. And I think that's a problem because the kittens can any kind of subtle distance increasing signals that they send, if they are ignored, then the kittens will be more likely to bite. And that's actually one of the most common behavior problems that you see from kittens is biting. And it makes sense now, right? Because fosters are not able to notice subtle things like looking away or looking around or leaning away or something like that. So I thought that was really interesting. Let me see. Two other things from the foster experience was that fosters are, well, this kind of goes along with training, that fosters were also not likely to do any exposure with their kittens younger than 4 weeks of age. And who knows what the the good age to start socializing kittens is. What's a good time to start?
10 weeks.
I think,
Oh no, yeah,
I think 4 or
that's
5 weeks is what I feel like I've heard.
4 or 5.
Mm,
Yeah, that's still a little bit too old.
old.
We started as soon as their eyes were open and they were walking
Yeah.
around.
That's quite good. Like eyes open is really good, but 2 weeks of age.
That's when their eyes open.
Yeah, so that I think it's a much better measure of when you should start.
Yeah.
Because they're in their transitional phase, they're like experiencing stuff. But even for puppies, not just talking about kittens, for puppies, you can start socializing them before their eyes open, because they're experiencing the world through they're experiencing warmth, they're very tactile, and they also have a very strong sense of smell. So anyway, so people were not doing anything before age of 4 weeks, and the kitten socialization period ends. Who knows when it ends? I have some cat people here. So, Jen P, were you gonna say something? You were like unmuted for a second.
Oh, me? Oh, no, so sorry. That was an accident.
Oh no, Jen P.
Oh, I thought I was muted. Let me
Jen
turn it
P
off.
was unmuted, so I thought
I
maybe.
No, I'm having trouble getting everything sorted out. I just joined and I'm having trouble with my settings.
Oh,
So
okay,
I
okay.
wasn't even listening, but what was anyway,
It
I'll
was
let you
like
get back.
when is the ending of the kitten sensitive socialization period?
Isn't it 2 to 7 or 2 to 8 weeks?
Yeah, it's widely considered 2 to 7 weeks. So and then some folks consider it 2 to 9, but even still, that's a very short period of time. I mean, like Pat said, you can socialize kittens in all throughout their lives, but this is a good time to start. Anyway, the other thing was that people didn't expose kittens to other animals at all. It's just like Pat was saying with puppies, they didn't expose them to other cats and other dogs. So there were some weaknesses there. And so basically in my presentation, I was going over based on the weaknesses that the University of Guelph people pointed out in the kitten foster experience. I was kind of pointing out things that I thought would be ways that we could improve our kitten foster experience. So since we know from Anna that it's like almost zero, which is really sad. So my recommendations were for like multimodal learning opportunities. So just, I mean, in the very least, I know that our puppy fosters get the socialization bingo, or is it like the socialization checklist from Sophia Yen? They get that, and they can get hands-on training so that they can know what to do with the kittens, because sometimes, reading the article, watching a video, which is another way that people can learn about how to socialize their kittens, but they just don't get anything right now. So it would be really great to improve that. I had this idea that I shared with Anna and Brandon and Celise about like making an app for socializing puppies and kittens that, because they have apps for fitness and they have apps for like budgeting. So why not have an app for raising a puppy or kitten that would be like day to day, like expose your kitten for X minutes to, I don't know, to the scent of a healthy, friendly cat, something like that. And it could have a video about how to do that. And it could potentially respond to your feedback. So if you do an exercise and your kitten was afraid, then the app could respond by making the exercise easier. So I think that this would be really cool if you consider that, that shelters provide so little support to kitten fosters. And one big thing that was a recommendation from the folks at the University of Guelph was to provide group support. So here's a photo of our like neonatal training. Oh, there's Anna. And there's some folks that are here. But most neonatal training for kittens is for keeping them alive, which is important, right? Because if they're not alive, then you don't have to worry about their behavior. But at the same time, if we know that that can work, that support works for their, feeding them and weighing them and so on, then we could provide that kind of support behaviorally so that they don't grow up and get returned to the shelter because of behavior issues, because of lack of exposure. I had some videos too. I don't want to go on too long, but I have like a bunch of videos about what we can do. Maybe we can watch one video. Let's see, what can we watch? Because I don't want to take too long. Let's see. Oh, do you want to see Frida and Shavella? They're having scent exposure.
We're gonna start with hibiscus.
This is so cute. And see, this is something that can be done with kittens who are not even weaned yet, or they're not eating solid foods at all. But they can be exposed to scents. And what this looks like is they're using the Meowie Jane brand collection of herbal scents. And Anna is just one at a time exposing them to the scents. And the idea is if the kittens are interested, then they can approach and spend time with the scent, and they can move away if they find the scent, not very nice. But also you can do this with kittens who can't move on their own. Most people do this with puppies when puppies are
Frida,
just days
good
old.
job, Frida.
But you just watch their
Okay,
body language.
no,
So if the puppy
okay, no.
smells the scent
Let's change
and they're
yours.
interested, then you can hold it there for
Let's
30
see.
seconds. If they kind of pull away, you have to really watch their body language. If they pull away, then you take it
Frida,
away
good job,
immediately.
Frida.
So even if a puppy or a kitten can't move on their own, they can still get exposure. So, and this is like, I don't know how, like, I think it looks really easy to do, but what do you think, Anna, as a foster? Was it kind of annoying to do?
I think it was, yeah,
Good.
it was easy. It's just that they are exploring, so they wanted to smell and move around everywhere, which was very cute.
Good.
But it was not, it was very easy to do.
Yeah, I mean, you know, they don't have to spend a whole lot of time
Okay,
with the
Chavez
scent to
interested,
get the
but
experience. It's like when
Frida.
you play with cats, they don't, and these are Olaf and Peekaboo, these are Justice's fosters. They're a little bit older and they weren't eating consistently. So this is a nice activity for them. Yeah, so like even if they're not super, super excited about the smell, just the exposure is really good because it builds resilience because the kittens are learning like that different scents are part of their world, and it can prevent like a fearful response later on. Here is I'm going to fast forward to the next one, but this is Benito learning the choice game. So basically, he can show. So, you know, people like to play with kittens. It's a lot of fun. But if you play with kittens, you might as well also add some choice, incorporate some choice to the activity. So I can offer Benito different toys, and the toy that he looks at, he can play with. So this is like at twice the speed. So basically, you see, he kind of gives a long look at the toy, and I think I switched them. Yes, I do, at some point. Oh, and also I realized that I was holding that other feather toy kind of coiled up, so I opened it up later. Here I switched it, so you could see he's still looking at that one. And then when I uncoil the feather thing, then he's like, "Ooh, look at this thing." So these little things, like if you've ever heard us talk about choice, this little choice can impact other situations where a kitten might not have choice. Like if you go to the vet for an emergency and you're not able to do any of the choice training with them at the vets, incorporating these little bits of choice in their day-to-day lives. This is true for kittens, but it's true for animals and humans too. So little things. Can somebody read me the questions as I kind of go through these things, and you can, anything in the comments?
There was no questions. I just put it that Benito got adopted today.
Oh, wow, congratulations. This is Benito learning to, he is learning to station, like super easy and really good for cooperative care. I forgot to mention that in Courtney Graham's study, she found that almost no kitten fosters incorporated mock veterinary exams in their socialization, and actually only 20% of the kitten fosters at all did any training. And this is it's a major point because only 41% of cat carers take their cats to the vets, and most of them avoid going to the vets because of how stressful vet visits are for cats. Getting them into the carrier, or just that the cat is stressed when they're handled by the vet. So mock exams are so, so important. So here, basically, we're just waiting for Benito to get on the mat, and then he gets to play with this toy. And it's so, so simple, and it's very useful. I'm just going to like fast forward to why this is useful. So like, for example, here's Rain. She's doing cooperative care, and this is like kind of, practicing handling for a vet exam, and she's on her mat. So she's on her little stationing mat, and she has a long reinforcement history on that mat. And I'm also using a safety signal poke before I touch her, and she's learned that when and also she has a default behavior, which means she initiates the activity. So it's very subtle, but look at her eyes. She looks towards my hand that's going to touch her before I say poke and touch her. So I am waiting for her to start this activity, and then also like do some mock injections too. So anyway, you guys, if you don't have any questions, if you didn't put questions in the comments, you can ask me questions now. Medication training. This is a big one. Every single cat should do medication training. This is for taking capsules. So she's got the one capsule that's got the chicken baby food on it, and then the rest of them are just little treats. And the analogy that I tell people about it, it's like if you eat raspberries, like my kids love to eat raspberries, so you buy tons of raspberries every week. And every now and again, one of the raspberries is bad and it tastes terrible, but it doesn't stop them from eating the raspberries because it's just one in like hundreds of raspberries. So if you do this medication training every day at the same time, then your kitten will know how to predict that medication is not horrible, and they'll eat it even if it's bad, even if it doesn't taste good.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and there's a lot of other reasons why this works. Like, about the texture of the cloth is super important. It tricks their tongue. So even without a lot of training, it works for a lot of cats. But if you do this every day, then it's even more likely to work. So anyway, so that was my kitten fostering thing. I knew it was going to take long, but I felt like I really had to tell you guys these things. Okay, so you guys have any questions or comments? And this was Kuro. Do you guys remember Kuro the kitten in Buddy's room? And he was one of Flick's fosters, so she gave me this adorable photo. All right, so it looks, Neri says that she was dying of allergies, and so she couldn't, in fact, do her presentation. So we're just gonna go on to the next one. So that's Nia. Is Nia here somewhere? Nia. Let me text her.
Nia, you're muted.
Oh, Nia's muted. Okay.
Yeah.
Here, I'm gonna take my spotlight off.
There you go.
And Nia, where is she? I don't see her.
Here.
Oh,
there you go. There she is.
Okay.
So I went to Texas Unites this year, and I went to a talk called "Is It Really Management's Fault it's called "Is It Really Management's Fault? Better Mental Health Starts With You" by Kelly Thyssen. In this talk, we discussed compassion fatigue, vicarious trauma, symptoms of compassion fatigue, and how to practice self-care. Compassion fatigue is defined as emotional and physical exhaustion that caregivers and helping professionals can experience over time. So that's like people in the veterinary field, doctors, people that work in shelters. I think that would also apply to to volunteers as well if they spend enough time up there. Vicarious trauma is the physical and emotional distress from repeatedly witnessing the trauma of others. So think of like repeatedly seeing families have to give up their animals, or seeing animals go through major stressors and trauma, and then you just kind of feel the trauma from that because you absorb it, because you're compassionate. I feel compassion fatigue can be experienced by anyone in any department, in any shelter. There are two types of factors that contribute to compassion fatigue, one being organizational or environmental factors, and the other being individual factors. Environmental factors, or examples of environmental factors, are low pay and high workload, lack of training, high turnover, exposure to continual trauma or moral conflicts, demands, and expectations. So these are things that you might not necessarily have control of yourself, but is happening around you and like to you. Individual factors are prior trauma, so things that you have gone through in life before you started in this field. They said that most helping professions go through prior trauma before they get into that field. Often that's what leads to it. I feel like is like we go through things, so we want to help people, we want to help animals. Having a lack of a support system at work or at home, avoidance of emotions, lack of self-care, and resilient routines. So there are different things that affect vicarious trauma. There are different ways that vicarious trauma can affect you. It can trigger prior trauma. So it can take you, think like PTSD. It can bring up old feelings that maybe you haven't felt in a while. It can cause burnout. It can cause a lack of delegation or shared responsibilities. So you have to ask yourself, are you actually delegating tasks, or are you taking everything on yourself because you don't want to make the situation worse? You really have to ask, like, can your team or your coworkers handle your workspace while you're gone? And then it can also cause a lack of work-life balance. In other words, be off work when you're off work. There are several symptoms of compassion fatigue, and I think they can look a little bit different for everyone. Obviously, there's exhaustion. You can also be very, cynical. It can cause you to be very irritable, cause you to have reduced productivity, binge eating, substance abuse, PTSD, hopelessness, anger, detachment, and feelings of being overwhelmed. So if you feel like you resonated with, I think she said 3 to 5 of those symptoms, you should probably ask yourself some questions. Do you have a good work-life balance? Are you suffering from relationship difficulties? Are you having a hard time keep up with friendships, with spouses, with, friendships, anything like that? Is there any substance abuse? I just want to pause there. I just want to say that anything that you use to numb your emotions or to escape your day-to-day life is a substance. So think alcohol, or food, or other stuff. You ask yourself, is this how I want to live my life? Do I want to live in a constant state of just being sad and frustrated and angry all the time? And you have to see where you have choice and agency within the matter. Of course, you can't always help what's going on around you, but you can help how you react to situations. So those are things to ask yourself. And if you do think that you're experiencing compassion fatigue, the first step is self-care. And I am very guilty of letting self-care be the first thing out the window. But I think everybody does that sometimes. So you need to ask yourself, What do you do for self-care? Do you travel? Do you exercise? Do you do crafts? Do you hang out with? Do you do, social activities? Are you eating healthy, and are you giving yourself plenty of rest? Self-care is not always getting, your hair done and your makeup done like a lot of people believe. It's how you take care of yourself in your day-to-day life. And not only is self-care a big part of relieving compassion fatigue, but so is resilience and how you train yourself to be resilient. Some people are just easily resilient, and hats off to those guys. But Kelly touched base on like resilience training, and like this starts like mentally. You have to like choose to be optimistic. You can't always assume the worst. You can't always assume that everything's going to fall apart every single day. You have to walk in knowing that there probably will be some hiccups in the day, but more often than not, everything does turn out okay. You have to ask yourself, do you have the ability to regulate emotions? And if you don't, you just have to give yourself like different techniques to get through those emotions, like breathing exercises, taking a walk, taking a step back, and giving yourself like the 5-minute break and stuff. And a big part of resiliency is the ability to see failure as some form of helpful feedback. And she gave a quote that I really liked. It says, resilient people view setbacks as resilient people view setbacks as disappointing but temporary. They refuse to be defined by their failures and take them as an opportunity to learn, grow, and recalibrate. Again, this is something that doesn't come very easily to some people. So you have to really work on paying attention to your thought pattern and pausing yourself whenever if you're going, well, crap, so-and-so's late today, and that means that everything's going to be super behind and fall apart. No, you can just be like, this is happening, and this is how we're going to bounce back from it, and this is how we're going to work as a team to get through this. Another thing to pay attention to is your internal motivation. What is your why? And I just went ahead and included my why in here. For me, my why is, I know what we do here at FFL truly makes a difference. We are not only helping the animals and people in our community, but we are helping globally. And that's incredible. And on a more personal level, FFL makes me a better person. It gives me a chance to put good out into the world. I'm surrounded by people that all have one common goal, and that's to make animal lives better. And so if there's ever a truly hard day that, just feels very unbearable, whether we're dealing with a very unfortunate medical situation, or if I'm just having a hard time training, let's say Apollo, if any of you know me, and I'm not getting the results I want, I can always just bounce back and remember my why. So those are ways that we can, make compassion fatigue better. And then there was a few takeaways on creating a culture of better mental health. It starts at home. So when you're at home, you need to be able to create me time, be present with your family, be mindful of your choices. Am I eating right? Am I getting enough sleep? Take a vacation or a staycation. I cannot tell you how many times during this talk Kelly mentioned drinking water. Apparently cortisol comes out through your pee and your sweat. So drink lots of water, stay hydrated. When you're at home, let guilt go and be selfish with your personal time. So don't go home and just resonate over any mistakes that, you may have made during the day. Just know that you're going to do better tomorrow and be present and being home. And that goes with giving yourself grace. And when you're at work, how you can create a culture of better mental health. You can check in with your coworkers, ask how they're doing, really be ready to listen. If if somebody asks how you're doing and you feel like you need to talk to someone, if you feel safe with them, don't be scared to open up. Take mental breaks. Like I said, take a walk around the block, exit the situation and take a breather. Do breathing exercises, drink water, but a very big one that I think is not only hard when we're talking about compassion fatigue, but I think it's just kind of hard in general for people to learn early in life is build boundaries. Saying no is okay sometimes. Even though we are helping professionals and we want to do all the good that we can possibly do, and we want to help each other out, sometimes we can fill our plate way too full, and it is your sole responsibility to make sure that you're keeping an eye on that. And you don't guilt your coworkers or yourself and leave each other alone when you're off work. So you really have to be mindful of other people's time and how they're trying to take care of themselves. And that's a huge part of it too. I just want to go ahead and say that there are so many amazing things about FFL. We don't handle high euthanasia rates. A big part of being at Texas Unites was I had to kind of navigate the traditional shelter talk while I was there, which is totally fine because I myself haven't had a lot of experience in other shelters. So I realized just how different we are than other shelters, and that is a huge blessing. But we do still face our own struggles, and we do still go through our own hard times here. And I just think as somebody that hopes to be here forever, that learning about compassion fatigue was very interesting. And that's all I have.
Nia,
Oh,
oh, I'm sorry. Were you talking? I think
no,
you're done.
I was just making sure that my sound was on the whole time.
Oh my God, don't even. If you could give me that talk at least like once a week, that would be great. That brought such good reminders and just brought my soul a little peace. So thank you so much for reminding us about all those good things. It's so damn important in our work.
Thank you. I'm not totally sure, and I don't recognize everybody on this list here, but I am in recovery, and so I've had the blessing of learning some of this stuff while rebuilding myself. But I think that normal people have it a little bit harder because they don't always get the chance to rebuild this stuff. So I think it's a good reminder for everyone.
You're awesome. Thank you.
And I think that this isn't like a fun topic because it's not like with cute little animals and things. But I also, over the years that I've been in animal sheltering, have seen people lost to compassion fatigue. So it's something that we really have to keep an eye on and do something about before it gets bad at the shelter. Like just a little thing, like, little things every week, like team building things or like encouraging people to take care of themselves. So what do you think you will do? What do you do for your team, for our team? What do you think that little things that you could do, or what suggestions would you have since you're in team spirit for the shelter? What do you think team spirit could do?
So I think actually that having some kind of presentation over like the importance of taking care of yourself and your mental health would be hugely beneficial. I was kind of thinking about that before I went to Texas Unites. And I was doing a little bit of research trying to get an understanding of what compassion fatigue was. So I think that I will take any volunteers who would want to join me in writing that presentation.
Anyone?
I'd be happy to be a part of that. I also think it surprises me how quickly it can work to just play a game together or do something that's out of the normal rhythm. It doesn't have to be expensive. it can be a half an hour thing, but just to play a game and sit down and talk about something besides work and remember each other, because we look past each other sometimes in getting to where we need to go during the day. So those are the kinds of team building things that I think sometimes great has been the enemy of good in team building. We think, gosh, we want to do a weekend retreat in Galveston, or we want to get everybody together for a special cookout and an escape room, but really just doing it, just saying, I'm going to be in the NPR with a deck of cards in this card game. Somebody come join me. That sometimes that feels the best to me.
I totally agree with that. I think you're referring to your We're Not Really Strangers game.
Yeah.
Totally
Oh,
enjoyed playing that with you guys, but I also really enjoyed when we were doing the NBC card games. So I think all of
Yeah.
those
yeah.
really
Or any game.
beneficial.
Like we used to do like game night at the shelter, and we don't have to do a big thing like that, but just small things. Or we could just go running with the running team.
We could.
Yes. Anybody else?
Hey, game night is alive and well, everybody. You just
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, here's your chance to like to let everyone know about the game night.
How do we regular folk get invited?
So there is a game night that goes on at the shelter most Sundays, at 7:30-ish in the NPR. Bring your games, and Crystal, Brandon, and I usually are the ones that headline that. So
Okay.
we order pizza or other food too. Usually we end up spending half the time just eating and chit-chatting, but still fun.
Chit-chatting is also team building.
Yeah.
So cute. Sully just like kissed you through the Zoom screen, Mia.
aw.
He said that's a great idea. Let's do game night.
I think Melissa has also suggested a few times having what is it, a healthy eating club or something like that.
What did I suggest?
A healthy eating club. Correct me
Oh yeah, sure. Healthy eating. Yep. Yeah, that's a good one. Oh, look, I love this. Anna says that they have water cooler biweekly. I love that.
They have what?
So it says, in my team at work, we have a water cooler biweekly where we share our week wins and just talk about what is happening in life besides work and help learn from my team members. In my team, we are all remote, so that helps.
Mm.
Yeah.
Aw.
Yeah, I love that idea. I mean, a lot of people, oh, Jackie's coming. Jackie. A lot of people feel like it's pulling teeth, sharing their good news, but I really like it actually. I love hearing other people's good news. I've really gotten into the habit of that in our shelter meetings.
I'm a nerd for the good news too. Just don't tell me.
Yeah. Here's some more good news. Sully smells amazing, and you guys are missing out. He smells like, I don't know, he's like aromatherapy dog. Right, Sully?
Is that something we could bring to our team building, aromatherapy dogs, or?
He smells nice because he had to be washed after playgroup yesterday. Yeah, that was gross. It was very muddy. Okay, so the next and last topic is Celeste talking about nap pods. I'm really curious about this, but I'm gonna be like handing off to Elise to MC because we're gonna go run because it's 7:15. But anyway, I'm really curious about what the nap pods are gonna do for our dogs at the shelter.
I'm curious when my nap pod is coming in.
Do we get personal nap pods in our offices? That's what we want to know.
At least you kind of have a nap pod.
I used to in Noodle Shed, but
Yeah.
that's been commandeered.
Charles likes to cuddle as well, from what I hear.
That's true. Maybe I should do that. I've taken many naps at the shelter before.
I think that Alicia's nap pod is just the air around her. That
Yep, that's a good spot.
she was sleeping in the living room, but nobody thought it was anything unusual. They were like, "Oh, she's sleeping in the living room," and we're like, "Okay, we'll just be quiet."
But he woke me up for
Alicia's like,
45
"Why didn't you
minutes.
wake me up?"
I think
That
that's
was so
team
funny.
support. That's team support.
All right. Celeste, whenever you're ready, we're super excited to hear about the nap pods.
Can I share my screen?
Yeah.
Melissa,
Yes,
make
yes.
Celeste the host.
I thought I did, but maybe I didn't. I spotlighted you. Okay, I should never, ever, ever be the MC ever again. Why aren't you showing up? Wait, okay,
Who
I'm gonna
puts
go back.
Melissa in charge of anything?
I don't
Is that a good
know.
idea?
It was Pilar. Initially, Pilar was supposed to be the MC, and then she got
Oh,
trapped.
I'm kidding.
Okay, make co-host. Ta-da! Yes.
Whee!
Okay. All right.
All right. Let's see. Where is my dad? So I knitted Nia back. Okay, so how do I now, if I want to share my screen, Elise?
There's a big green share button on the Zoom page.
Yeah,
I would click on that.
okay.
Woo!
That's not what
Okay,
I wanted
so
then.
now I see your whole screen, so don't
Okay.
put anything bad. Just
You
go
go-
to your
Can you
whatever you
see-
wanted to show us.
Can you see the dog Zen pods?
I can see the email that has it as an attachment.
That's not what I wanted. Okay. So let me just, before I belabor this, the talk I went to was by an architect from Animal Arts who is with the firm in Boulder, Colorado that only designs animal facilities, and their architecture firm was one of the firms that we consulted with building the shelter. And she partnered in this talk with a professional acoustician who specializes, who owns her own firm out of Florida, and she specializes in the acoustics of animal shelters. And their talk was about sound in shelters and how it contributes to stress in animals, and how that compounds in decreasing adoptions and increasing illness. And the thrust of their talk was first the science. It was a very science heavy talk on the effects of acoustics and shelters. And I think it struck home with most of the people in this talk when they said, if there's a space in your shelter, any space at all where you have to say to one another, we'll have to continue this conversation somewhere else because you were with a bunch of animals and it was too loud, then you're doing it wrong. And we have all had that experience at shelters where dogs are barking so much. There's so much noise that it's impossible to walk through a corridor and have a conversation. We went to a shelter that we're going to be partnering with in Denton, and they're a great shelter. The way their kennels are set up, it's all tile and concrete, and the dogs are in kennels that are facing each other. And it's impossible to walk through there, to even look at the dogs, because of the noise. So this talk was about how they acknowledge that most shelters are only going to be able to retrofit for acoustics. Most shelters are not going to have been able to consult with an acoustician at the beginning of the design of the shelter. And as many of you may know, we did, and you can see the sound baffling down the dog's hallways, the sound baffling in the kennels, the sound baffling glass, the ways that the walls are angled down the dog hallway, and the panels up at the top are all designed to diffuse sound. And they gave some fairly inexpensive, fairly effective ways to decrease the sound in shelters. But sitting in this talk made me realize that this was the perfect team to hear my my crazy idea of these sleep pods. And it started reading a study, a super long article, actually a compilation of mini studies. And the initial theme of the study was getting animals out to foster care, even for a short period of time, is so significantly valuable to their health, to decreasing their stress. And so as you read more deeply, one of the core reasons, and they think maybe the paramount reason, is that dogs need 15 to 18 hours of sleep a day, much like Elise. And so,
Wow.
and so if they don't get it, their cortisol levels are elevated. And they did a study measuring these elevated cortisol levels with dogs that were not able to ever get to REM sleep in a shelter. And if you think about the way that our shelter's laid out, you know, we are head and shoulders above most shelters in terms of paying attention to acoustics and trying to create an environment for all the animals that's as sound friendly and sight friendly and smell friendly as it can be. And yet, imagine how it's absolutely impossible for any one of those dogs in the dog hallway to sleep 15 to 18 hours. Even if there's no barking, just the opening and closing of the door next to them is enough to wake them up. Even the dogs that are out in the dog suites, out in the parking lot, they have a better setup than the inside dogs. And they have the white noise of the air conditioning and heating units. And they have insulation, and they don't share a wall. But at the same time, they can still hear the dogs next to them barking, and as we take them out multiple times during the day. So they're not getting sleep. So I started to wonder, could we create something like sleep pods for the dogs? And I don't know, I'm dating myself. I mean, everybody knows I'm super old, but in the 80s, when this movie Altered States came out, the sensory deprivation chambers got really popular, and you can still find them now. They're kind of making a little bit of a resurgence, but they're the flotation pods that essentially body temperature, highly salinated water, and they are soundproofed. You go in them, lie down, you float, and you essentially have no light and no sound and very little sensory input. And it's the idea is that it's very calming. I find it very calming. So I wondered if we could build something like this for dogs and retrofit a shelter. So far, I mean, it's impossible to build this, with every kennel being this way, but could we build a sleep pod that was like a sensory deprivation pod? We started calling them dog Zen pods, that the behavior team could acclimatize a dog to wanting to go in, and it could be something that dogs could take turns spending a few hours in to get some sleep. And so as I sat through these women's talk, I waited till Q&A and said, this is crazy, and I haven't talked to any professional about this at all. It's just been something on my dry erase board that's weird. So you two are the scientists and the experts. Is this insane? And as I spoke the idea to them, they both came around the podium and their eyes lit up and they said, we want in. We want in. We think this could be a thing. So we've been meeting about this idea, and the architect has brought the weight of animal arts, and she said, we will do the designs. We'll design the pod. And Keely, the acoustician, has said she will help us construct the sound study to test what the sound levels are at the shelter that we're currently offering as baseline, and then what the sound levels would be in the pod. And the way that the shelters in the study that I originally read were measuring stress is free catch urine cortisol levels and saliva cortisol levels. And Dr. T is going to help us design that medical aspect of the study. We're also going to add Crystal By, and I think she had to go, but Crystal By and I have a call this week with a collar company that's a different kind of biometric that we hope will be charged longer. So we'll add the biometric feedback of the dogs on top of the sound data to see when the sound spikes are and what that has to do with, whether the dogs are in a sleeping or a waking state, or whether they can get to that REM state. And we ideally, we have this pitch deck, and now let me see if I can get the pitch deck. Can y'all see those dog Zen pods? Yes, Elise? Okay. So this is a first pass.
Sorry, I gave such an enthusiastic yes, and I was muted. I apologize.
But I saw it though. Thank you. So this is it's a first pass at the process, but this is the problem that we're trying to solve. We're trying to solve chronic sleep deprivation. And we know that there are so many studies out there that show dogs are mammals like us. When they sleep better, they do better. And sleep deprived dogs have a marked, traceable, quantifiable mental and physical decline. If we create these modular pods, they would ideally work to reduce noise levels, and then we would add in white noise. And again, we're going to work with the acoustician to decide, I mean, can we truly soundproof these pods, or and if we can, you know, where do we put them in the shelter? Features that we're discussing, obviously there would have to be some kind of acoustic paneling. We would put a ventilation system in, make it very den-like. We'll rely on the behavior team to help us encourage the dogs to want to do it. There's that constant push and pull between easy to sanitize and sound baffling materials. It's come a long way since we built the shelter. There's more stuff out there than there used to be. So the two experts I'm talking with are very encouraged about that. We had initially thought about building them in 3 sizes. The architect is monkeying around with making them sort of a Russian doll type thing that can expand or contract, because William's sleep pod is going to look different than T-Rex's sleep pod. And we would need to alter that. Ultimately, the reason we care about this is that we would like to ultimately offer these to shelters that can't soundproof or sound baffle. We'd like to make some and create them in a way that they would be accessible to shelters that have it's super loud environments. For some of you may have been with us on shelter pulls to the Brazoria County animal shelter. But that animal shelter is literally across the parking lot from the shooting range. It's surreal that it exists like that. But there are shelters that I think could really benefit from it. Ultimately, I mean, and this would be super down the road as we could volume produce these somewhere, we'd like to offer them to shelters at an attainable cost and get to a place where they could be shipped. And maybe again, with the Russian doll idea, they could be broken apart and stacked like kennels for shipping or for storage. And so this is kind of where we are. We'd like to create one prototype initially, try it at Friends for Life, and then pick a shelter that's very different in its design from Friends for Life and try it there, redo the design, re-examine the data and see where it goes. So that's where we are, and this is partly a pitch deck for that we'll use for investors, because I think there will be investors interested in this. Partly a pitch deck that we'll use for grant money, and I think there'll be some grant money out there.
Yeah.
So that was what I brought home, completely unrelated to the talk that I gave at Texas Unite, but this was the shiny thing that I brought home from the conference that I'm currently working on.
I have so many thoughts. Is it?
I'm done. I want to hear.
Yes. Oh my God. Okay. And I know we're technically 5 minutes over time, so Anna had to hop off. If anyone else needs to, go ahead. Oh my God. Okay. So number one, I'm hearing we don't need a foster department anymore. We're just gonna have happy dogs in sleep pods all the time. Cool. That'll make my job so much easier. I'm kidding.
Yes.
Number two, I'm hearing a development plan. If we get this where we are selling them for $500 a pop, to go help animals. I mean, what a win-win. I don't even have all my thoughts in my brain right now, but when Nia talks about compassion fatigue and we have rough days and we have brain days and we have, times where we just feel a little bit of a mess, it's stuff like this that gets me so excited that I get to exist at FFL and I get to see sleep pods. Like, Mike, I mean, we're using data to help animals all over the world with crazy big ideas, big crazy ideas.
Isn't that wild? I'm so grateful that I work at a place that it's my job to chase down this idea. Like, this is not something I have to do in my free time on my vacation. This
Right.
is the heart of my job to figure this out and chase it for Friends for Life. And again, this will be, we are pursuing all of the legal protections for all of this intellectual property and design will belong to Friends for Life. Ooh, what's this?
She doesn't think it has to be soundproofed because adopted dogs aren't in soundproof environments. Yeah, my house isn't soundproof, right? It's like with babies, you don't want it to be completely silent. But yeah, no, yeah,
And
I like
that's
that idea.
something for me to learn. There's so much data out there. I had no idea how deep the acoustical science is and how surgically granular it is in terms of the tone and the decibel level and the combination of those two things and the length of the sound and things that sounds that are troubling for animals that we don't even hear, things that we could insulate against that we wouldn't think to insulate against, and things that so the acoustician is absolutely a fascinating scientist to me. She has built her whole career around making the experience of animals in shelter facilities and veterinary facilities calmer by engineering sound. And so there is also data on whether it is unnerving to be in a completely sound deprived space, right? There's a room in God, is it the University of Michigan that's like the quietest room in the whole world, that they have insulation upon insulation, and it's in their I don't know what department it's in, but people go in there and they think they want to sit in silence, and they go in and people don't last more than 10 or 15 minutes because we do need some kind of sound besides the beating of our own heart. So there is some balance there. Yeah, it's a really good observation.
Maybe we like have the pod and there's like a little white noise machine that like, you drop in it or something. And yeah, I don't know. Celeste, I want updates on this all the time.
Will do.
Okay, cool.
Updates will be forthcoming.
Good. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Okay. Anyone else have other thoughts, questions? I know we're 10 minutes over. I appreciate y'all staying.
Did I miss anything in the chat?
Nope,
Nope. Okay.
nope. No, we're all good. We're all good.
Cool. Well, thank y'all. I love
Thank
seeing this
you,
attendance.
Celise. Oh my God, thank you, Celise. Thank you, Nia. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Pat. I really, really enjoyed all. I know it's been a long time since we had a roundtable, but I really enjoyed hearing all of these ideas, all these things that we've learned. Yeah, it's another thing I love about this place is that we are always getting better all the time. We're always learning new things. We're always, using them. Yeah. Thank you all so much.
Thanks, everybody. Good roundtable.
It was good. All right. See y'all later.
All right.
Bye.